Welcome to our She Rises podcast, Confetti Conversations, where together we'll discuss topics with a cup of coffee and a handful of confetti. Join our host, author and speaker Holly Wagner and her friends as they share their experiences on real issues, real questions from you, and throw in a little random nonsense along the way.
Hi, welcome to Confetti Conversations. So excited that you have joined us today, and I'm really excited that we're going to talk about friendships and how important it is to build friendships. And I can't imagine doing that without these two amazing friends. I do way better with people. Okay, this is my friend Megan, and she and her husband Carrie pastor the Movement Church in Orange County, and we have been really good friends for 5 years, 6 years, something like that. Yes. A lot of years traveled. And then this is my friend Jennifer Perkins, and she's been on our team here at Oasis for ever, long time. And we've been friends for a long time, and she actually does something pretty fun with UNICEF. So I don't make stuff up. Why don't you
Sure. I'm actually a team lead for the civics team, and what that means is we lead congressionally and advocating on behalf of vulnerable women and children.
It's awesome.
Yes.
I know she's like amazing.
Yeah.
She's amazing. So I just want to talk a little bit about friendships, because I think I just think sometimes in our life we get so busy. Yeah. I mean, life gets very full.
Yes.
And whether you have kids or don't, it's job and career and travel, and so sometimes the first thing that falls off the table is hanging out with friends.
Yeah.
And I just think there are consequences to that, and so our life is so much fuller and better with friends. Yeah. And so it's important that we make time for them.
Absolutely. I think so many people don't make time for friendships, and they miss out on what friends actually do for you and what you can do for others too. But for me, I like the most keen memory I have of this was when I was doing this boot camp, and I was trying
boot camp, like exercise boot camp.
Oh yeah, like exercise boot camp.
I'm so impressed with you right now.
Thank you. This was like this was the first boot camp I ever did, so it was impressive at that moment because it was so hard, and there were so many things like crazy jump ropes and tire flipping, and it was intense, like big tires, like we flipped them over. Wow. And it was intense. And so I had some friends that were doing it with me, and one day the coach looked at us and he was like, "Today we're going to go outside and we're going to run a mile." And I was like, "I don't run." I'm doing the boot camp. I do not run. And he goes, "Today you do." And I was like, and I'm thinking, I am paying you to be here. And before I could say anything, my friends had grabbed me and dragged me outside. And so we started on this mile run. And I really, at that time in my life, I really didn't run. That was not something I did, except from scary things. And, we started out on this jog, and I was going, but getting towards the end, I was so tired because I did not run. And so I was just slowing down, and I came to a stop, and I'll never forget, my friends had been behind me the whole way, cheering me on, like, "Come on, you've got this, you can do this." And I'm thinking, who do you think I am? And I came to this stop, I started walking, and they came up and grabbed my arms and started running.
And carried you the rest of the way?
Well, I mean, my feet were still on the ground, but basically, they drug me to the finish. And I celebrated like I had just completed a 50-mile marathon because I felt like I had. And so I was just realizing with that story and that moment, I wouldn't have done it. I would have given up, and I wouldn't have gone all the way through with it if it hadn't been for friends. And I just think Ecclesiastes says 2 are better than 1, right? And so I just think so many times we just push it aside like it's not that big of a deal. We don't really need that, but we do need friends. To spur us on towards great things, to sit with us in the pain of the hard things, and we need those kind of people in our life.
And so it takes time, right?
Yeah.
It takes a decision. I look at my life, and I have some really great friends, but none of them just happened overnight.
Yeah.
It's the investment of time.
That's right.
And it's the connection more than the occasional text message. It's
It's intentional as well.
Right. It's face-to-face conversations.
Yeah.
Right. It's having those conversations.
Yes.
So I started thinking, what are some of the really good qualities? What would be, when you look for a friend, what is a really good quality, Jennifer, that you think would be a good one?
Being easy, not being difficult.
Yes, amen.
I think
uncomplicated.
Uncomplicated. Yes. That right there just takes the pressure off, and you allow people to be who they are and just say, "I'm genuinely interested in you, and I want to make that as uncomplicated as possible as I want to, know more about your interests and invest in you and reciprocate, because that's also part of it too. It's not one-sided. So how can we be there for one another when you make that connection with someone that you want to go into a friendship with?
Yeah, I really appreciated that about you. I think that's a word I would describe you as genuine and uncomplicated. And so it just makes it easy.
Yeah.
And now we're all going to have a little bit of drama in our life, so it's not like we're not going to go through challenging times, but I just think we can make the decision to be the uncomplicated friend.
Right.
That's
and unoffendable.
Yes, that too. Not being so sensitive.
Yes.
And just give people the benefit of the doubt. So quickly we want to just go to offense. And it's like, know the context of the person. They're juggling these things right now. They're in a difficult season. Show grace for that. And just communicate. Communication is huge.
That's good. Yeah.
Communication is so huge.
Yeah, that's great.
Because so much is misunderstood just because you're not speaking about what's really happening or not happening. So, if you can even have that dialogue open with someone, and just communicate what's happening and be okay with that. Like, okay, we're going to get through this together.
Right.
So
how do you handle it when you don't agree? So you've been, walking with a friend, you've been a friend for a while, and maybe you don't agree about something, whatever that issue would be. Or you don't see things I'm not talking about maybe the political arena, but even not even that big, but you don't see something eye to eye. So then how do you just pretend it's not there?
I think a lot of people do, but I don't think that's a good idea.
Good. Yeah.
I think you have to be willing to engage in the conversation.
Yes.
And I think the biggest thing is being willing to hear something from someone else's point of view.
Absolutely.
And not just being so dogmatic about how you feel and think. So being willing to hear someone else's point of view doesn't mean you forfeit the right to your own.
Yeah.
And that's just grace for people, right? What do you think?
And I think in those situations, I'm not quick to give my opinion. I'm quick to listen, and I'll see.
Yeah, that's because you're really nice. I think I'm the opposite.
I know, I'm really quick to listen. And then
that's why you're my friend.
Even when they give all that they spill out and I may not agree with it, I'll see if they want to hear my opinion. I'm not enforcing my opinion on it. I'm just going to listen and ask, how can I support you in this? And they may know that I have a different opinion about it, but they will always know that I still support them and I love them. Where they are, even if it's different from me. Right. Yeah, we're friends, we're in this together, so I respect where you are, and how can I support you in that? So.
You're great at that. You're great about asking questions and in conversations when you realize that you're in a disagreement, or in times when you've wanted to challenge me in something that I'm thinking. You're great about saying, do you want to hear my thoughts on that? Yeah. And so I think that anybody could go, no, I don't want to hear your thoughts. I may have told you that before, I don't know, but I always want your thoughts, Holly. Yeah. I just think being willing to say, I'd like to hear your thoughts on that, but also being the one that's willing to ask and not just force your opinion. I think that's huge.
It's so hard sometimes for people to see something from someone else's point of view. It's easy to write that down as this would make a good friend. Yeah. But I think sometimes in a moment, it's really hard to see something. So you have to be really intentional about that. So I think there's just being intentional with the time that we spend and being intentional with seeing something from somebody else's point of view. Absolutely. And then being intentionally open.
Yes. I think intentional vulnerability, that's crucial in relationships, right? Yeah. Because, at least in the seat that I sit in as a pastor and a leader, I've got a lot of great friends in my world, and one of the things that I love the most is the uncomplicated friends, because there's times where life gets crazy busy and I don't pick up the phone to call or to send a text message, and it's been a month and we have to catch up, real quick with friends. But I think it's also easy to hide behind those kind of uncomplicated friendships. Yes, it is. Where I just have a lot of very surface relationships, but none that go deep, that really know me, that know my weaknesses, and that are going to challenge me. I mean, a real iron sharpens iron, right? So if you don't have a friend that's willing to call you out and challenge you, then are they really a great friend? So I have a friend who is just my go-to person, and when I'm fighting with my husband or whatever it might be, she's someone that I can send a text message to and say, pray for me because this is not good. And I know she loves my husband, so it's awesome. Totally. But she sent me a message the other day, and she just said, listen, I am not in a good place. I'm not feeling healthy as an individual. My marriage is feeling challenging, and I'm just not doing good. And so I immediately, at that moment, that's where like, it doesn't matter what else is going on.
Right.
You drop
You
it.
drop it.
Yes.
And so I picked up the phone and called her and just got caught up on what was happening. But the thing that I appreciated the most was that she was willing to just be real. She didn't have to explain away all of the things that she was struggling with, or give excuses for the argument with her husband, or excuses for why she just literally laid it all out there. And it made me able to go, I'm so sorry that you're dealing with this, and be just empathetic to where she was at, but then also challenge and encourage her. And I just think sometimes we struggle there because when we share vulnerability and we share weakness, it makes us feel like we're not as good as, or I mean, I think we just feel like we have to have everything together all the time.
That's such, that I just think we live in this culture of the Instagram culture, right? Where everything has to be perfect and are we happy all the time? And so we create this image, and so then we have this fear perhaps of will they love me if I say blah, but what I have found, the friendships I have that are the deepest and the strongest is because we've had real conversations and I've been open and honest. Now, you have to choose that person.
That's right.
Right? And so like
usually they're safe people.
Right.
That's true.
You're a safe space for her to be able to be vulnerable that way. And that's a real thing too.
Yeah, you shouldn't do that with everyone. That's a good point.
Yes.
And there, like, you think about there are people who are your peers, right? So who are navigating the same season of life perhaps, and so you have those, and those you want to pick a few that are safe people there. But then you need someone who's a little further down the road.
100%.
Maybe if they have kids, they have older kids, or their job, they're a little longer at that job, or whatever. So you can get some.
That's great.
Be open there so that they can encourage you.
That's right.
On the journey.
Yes.
But I just can't imagine not having that space to be vulnerable. And, but choose the person wisely that you're going to share your heart with.
Yeah, because you also don't want to be that person who just dumps all of your feelings all the time.
Because then you become a drama queen.
Yes.
Exactly.
So it's finding balance, right?
It is a balance, absolutely. Yeah, because it could become selfish real quick with some people.
Yeah.
So you don't want to be that. And we want to be in reciprocation of our relationship with one another. So through the good times, through the bad times, we're celebrating through the good, through the bad. We're together going through that, so it's both and.
I had this, friend, and we've been friends for decades. And in her home, a few years ago, some young girls came in there and they just saw some cards that I had written her, just like little friend cards or whatever. And what they said to her was, gosh, I hope I have a friend like that 10 years from now. But that's because it was intentional, right? So we've done all that we just talked about, the time and honest vulnerability. When I started thinking about the things that damage friendships, I think jealousy.
Yes, 100%.
Competition.
Right? Competition.
Yeah.
And the truth is we all can go there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. That's
right.
Real. That's
and
real.
it just can damage.
It absolutely.
And so I just think you have to look in your own heart. Where. So again, social media, we're scrolling and we're seeing all these people who are more successful
100%.
and us. Maybe they have a bigger church launch than you guys did, or whatever it is, right? And so then there's the thing in us that we start to get this little, I don't know the word to that. Do you know what I mean? That little edge.
Yes,
right?
Yeah.
And so then you start to pull away a little bit, right? Because when you get jealous,
Put up walls, and then you're not vulnerable,
right?
Yeah.
Because you wouldn't want to be vulnerable,
Right.
Because that's
Right.
weak,
right?
I think for me, I've had to adopt this mantra, and literally I'll say it out loud when I feel that thing.
That thing, whatever that thing is.
That thing. And I'll say out loud, I'm a cheerleader for and champion of my friends. I'm a cheerleader for and champion of my friends.
That's so good.
Because it's really easy to go there. I think so many of the great relationships that I have right now in this season of my life are all women who are running in similar lanes as I am, and doing just some incredible things. And some of those things are things that I would love to be doing too, in some aspects, if that makes sense. And so I think for me, I have to keep that in check all the time and constantly remember, no, I'm going to run in the lane that God has called me to run in.
Right.
And I'm going to develop really healthy relationships because I'm going to choose. I'm not going to feel like but I'm going
Right.
to choose to champion and
That's really
cheerlead
good.
my friends forward in the things that they're doing and accomplishing. But that is 100% a choice, not just a natural feeling. And I think that would be something worth
Yes.
admitting.
Yes.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Nobody just feels like
Oh,
that.
everyone compares. Like you definitely with social media, it's a love-hate with social media.
Yeah.
You know. But yeah, it's that. I think just your flesh just begins to like assessing where you are right now. Oh, I haven't come that far along in this. Oh, okay, there already. Oh, and then it's going to what you said,
Yes.
finding that space. Like no, like. We're gonna celebrate them. We're
Yeah.
gonna be there for them.
And
Like this
intentional.
is amazing. Intentional.
It
Yeah.
is intentional.
It's recalibrating.
That's the
like,
word.
Yep.
Yes,
Yeah.
intentional
Absolutely.
time, intentional vulnerability,
Yes,
intentional
yes.
celebration.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I just started thinking probably for me what I've noticed is that the first step in any healthy relationship is actually liking your own self, liking who you
Yes.
are.
Absolutely.
Right? It's being confident
Yes.
in who you are and what
Yes.
God has
Yeah.
called you to do,
That's right.
and in who He's called you to be.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Because if you are confident in who He's called you to be and who you are, then you can give generously. You can cheer on somebody
Yes.
else because you realize they're not taking from
They're
you.
not
Yes.
taking from
Right?
you.
You can be excited for them.
That's right.
But it's the ones who I think, and again, the moments when we've all been jealous or insecure, it's because all of a sudden there's that insecurity in us,
Yes.
right? That wants to take or push back. And so when you're confident in who you are, and that's the journey.
Yeah.
You know, and there's books that have been written, you know, the like emotionally healthy leader
Yeah.
and all these ones that challenge the health of a leader and our own soul. And that's not the only one. There's plenty of them. But
Yeah.
I just think those are really important.
Right.
Yeah.
And to be honest,
Yeah.
like
Yes.
where is
Yes.
my insecurity bringing damage? I mean, to my marriage, it certainly would bring damage to a
Right.
marriage, but into friendships.
Yes.
And because then the flip side of that is when you're insecure, then you see an arrogance, right? Some
Yes.
people
Yeah.
hide their insecurity by being
Right.
like really arrogant.
Well, pride
very
is just
true.
inflated insecurity,
Yes.
right?
Yes,
I mean,
sure.
that's really what it is
Yeah.
in the first place.
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah, I think that's so true. That is the thing that every single one of us, if you're actually going to have great friendships, I think that at the core, at the foundation, you have to be able to be confident and secure in who you are,
Yeah.
who God's called you
Yeah.
to be,
Right.
and in your relationship with God. Because if you
Yeah.
have that foundation down, then everything else builds on top of it. And with that foundation down, I'm not needing my affirmation or my
Right.
validation
Yeah.
from friends.
From friends,
So
right.
I'm not the dramatic, needy
Yeah.
person
Right.
because
Right.
I've got that from God.
Yeah.
And then I can be vulnerable and real because
Yes.
I don't mind the weakness,
Right.
right? In my
Right.
weakness, He's strong. And so I
Yeah.
think that just dealing with those insecurities is the foundation for being able to have real, authentic, awesome friendships.
Yeah.
And for me, I think that in the last thought perhaps that we can speak to is I've had to learn to be intentionally forgiving.
Yes.
That's great.
I have been, I mean, we're all flawed, right? And so I have navigated some
Yeah.
really painful betrayals and relationship breakdowns.
Yeah.
And so then it's being intentionally forgiving and
Yeah.
letting go.
Yes.
Because for me, I found myself a few years ago just with this bitterness in my own soul that was, it was causing me to be cynical about so many people, just like
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah.
And when you start
Yeah.
living like that, it's not a
Yeah.
good thing.
Right.
Right? And so I just think intentionally forgiving, and just like you said, you never feel like intentionally cheering somebody on. I never feel like intentionally forgiving either.
No.
I feel like smacking people.
Okay.
But it's forgiving, right? And she knows. And letting go and just being intentional. And then God, can bring restoration and reconciliation, but it won't come if I keep a bitter,
Right.
hard heart.
Right.
Right? So I just
Right.
think being intentionally
That's
forgiving. So
great.
that's kind of been our word in this conversation.
Intentional.
Right? Intentional.
Intentional.
Because I think friendships are intentional.
intentional.
Otherwise, you will give up the time needed.
Yeah.
And so being intentionally a cheerleader, intentional vulnerability, intentionally uncomplicated.
That's right. Keep it simple.
Yes, and intentionally forgiving. So
Yeah, that's great.
thank you for joining us for Confetti Conversations, and I hope you've learned a few things just about navigating friendships.
Yeah.
And I want to let you know, check out sherises.com. Our conference is amazing. It'll be couple of amazing days, and we don't want you to miss out on that. So She Rises family, make sure that you are at She Rises conference, and thanks for being here, guys.
Thanks for joining us today. If you have a topic you'd like to submit, we'd love to hear from you. Please email us at sherises@oasisla.org. And for more information about She Rises, Holly Wagner, or our upcoming She Rises events, including our annual conference, please visit sherises.com. And make sure you're following us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at She Rises LA.